What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video of the Point After Podcast. This is not going to be a podcast. We're going to break this week up into a couple different episodes. So this video will be the college football that you guys are watching. Preview week number 6. Another video coming out is going to be 5 of NFL, and then tomorrow/Sunday got the fantasy football. Guys, obviously not football just ended, so we'll can bounce off based on who played and got available. But as always, joined by the Sharpie Gel Man himself. Matt, how's it going?
Doing great, bro. Doing great.
What'd you think of those Thursday night college games?
I think if you follow TPA and you're into the college football or NFL betting atmosphere, you would have won some money tonight. So I think we kind of sat down, vaguely discussed some stuff we thought would happen tonight, and wound up going 4-1, technically 4-2, but we're not counting the Russell Wilson team prop player prop since he was injured. Hate that for them Seahawks, but tune in. You might win some money in the future.
Yeah, the only thing we missed was Tulane plus 6.5, where they kind of gave that game away. We had a teaser that hit.
Yeah.
We had Cincinnati or Coastal Carolina first half hit, first quarter hit, total hit. It's a good day. CCU helped us out a lot. But yeah, like Matthew said, we went 4-1. So follow us on Twitter or Action to keep up with all of our picks. But nonetheless, we'll go ahead and hop into a couple key matchup games. Then we may touch on some other games as we kind of wrap up the show. I don't really see a game worth touching on or spending too much on tomorrow night. Cincy should win handily. Arizona State should win pretty easily. Charlotte and Florida International. I think Charlotte went kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hop on into the Red River Shootout Saturday morning. Oklahoma versus Texas. At the time, I printed my little sheet off. Texas was unranked. Are they ranked in the New AP poll?
21st.
21st. Okay, so we got a ranked top 25 matchup. I think there's been 34 teams that have already lost this year that were ranked. I think half of those were versus another ranked opponent. So this will add on to that. What are you thinking, man? Texas is a completely different team from what we saw against Arkansas a couple weeks ago. Oklahoma hasn't looked great. I'm very excited for this game. How do you see it?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely excited for this one. Honestly, I'm gonna have Texas winning this one. I think only because Oklahoma has been so sloppy. I think eventually it's going to catch up to them. But then again, I say that and this could be the game where Spencer Rattler throws for 422 yards and 5 touchdowns. But ultimately, I'm just going to base it off what I've seen the previous 5 weeks, and I like Oklahoma to lose this week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'm gonna tell you, I was kind of thinking about this one game in particular a little bit before we went live. Mac Brown, I think his last 4 games as the head coach at Texas, lost by 30 points or more. And Oklahoma scored at least 50 in all 4 games. I'm thinking this is going to be one of those Red River shootouts I think it was Sam Ellinger's sophomore year, I want to say, that was like down to the wire, 44-38, something like that. That's the kind of game I'm expecting, but I'm right there with you. I'm going with Texas. Oklahoma has not looked great at all. They should have lost against West Virginia, barely got by Nebraska, should have lost against Kansas State. It's just...
And should have lost to Tulane.
Yeah, should have lost to Tulane. And it's... like you said, one of these days, and I think the same thing is going to, or we can say the same thing about Clemson. And I think we can say the same thing about North Carolina. North Carolina's kind of showed flashes of it, but they haven't been against quality opponents. One of these days, they're just going to go off. They're going to score 60 against a good team, kind of like how Georgia did against Arkansas a little bit. They just explode. It's not even close. That game's coming from Oklahoma, but I don't think it's this one.
Yeah, and 2, Oklahoma, and let's see, I think the last, games that we just talked about, all games have came down to the final 2 possessions where either the opposite team has made a mistake or Oklahoma has done something to put themselves ahead. And I know we'll touch on it later, but I don't have them in my top 10 for that reason. They haven't showed against teams that I think they should handle easily. And like I said, I think this is the week where it catches up to them finally. Texas is going to be ready.
Yeah, I mean, you start off the year with a 5-point win over Tulane, who is currently 1-5. You beat Nebraska by 7 on the road against Nebraska. At that point, was like what 2-1, 2-2 maybe. You beat West Virginia at home by 3, and then you beat Kansas State on the road by 6. Your time is coming, and I think it's either going to. I touched on it. I think it was after the Nebraska game, maybe after the West Virginia. Texas can beat you. TCU could possibly beat you. Iowa State, if they get it clicking by that point, they could beat you. And Oklahoma State is currently ranked 12th in the country. You could very well finish 8-4 and 5-0 right now at this point in the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Big 12 is still anybody's game. I mean, it's a shit show, So.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you something else really quick while we're here. Texas is I think I've got them at +3 right now. TPA is 7-0 when betting on underdogs less than 5 this year. Texas fits that model. Could we make it 8-0? I don't know, but I'm just saying. Numbers don't lie, you know what I mean?
7. Yep.
All right, moving on to another top 25 ranked matchup. Arkansas at Ole Miss, same time, 11 o'clock kickoff in Oxford. Both teams did not look great last week. Arkansas played Georgia. We picked them to cover 18. Lost by what, 20-something, almost 30.
Yep.
Ole Miss.
I think it was 37-0.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think it was 37-0. Yeah.
Ole Miss. I'm thinking of Ole Miss, who scored late and kind of got it a little bit closer. Ole Miss got beat by 30 by Alabama. So two teams coming off losses to arguably the two best teams in the country by a long shot. I think this is going to be a pretty even matchup, but I think at the same time it's also going to give us a chance to learn just how good these teams are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, no one really expected them to beat Georgia or to beat Alabama. It was talked about, but I think, at the end of the day, no one really thought it would happen unless Georgia or Alabama had a bad day and honestly a terrible day. But now that these two teams are matched up head-to-head, how do you see it playing out?
For me, I like Ole Miss in this one, and the reason is because, Ole Miss, there towards the end last week, got things going, kind of found a rhythm, and Arkansas just didn't find a rhythm. I think we're going to see a little bit of a hangover from Arkansas, getting beat up pretty bad, like they did last week. And like you said, they did play the two best teams in the country. I think there's no debate about them two being the top two teams. But at the same time, this is a big game in terms of, SEC West placement, and I think both teams realize that. But at the same time, like I said, I think Ole Miss has the better offensive team, and I think this game is going to come down to, one of those games. It's, upper 20s, 28-24, 31-28. But I like Ole Miss in this one.
I've actually got the over-under marked. The under is flirting around 66. I'm taking the under. Like you said, I think Arkansas has shown signs of flashes, but I think Ole Miss has been the more consistent team all year. When you look at Arkansas, they beat Texas by about 3 scores. When realistically, that's not the same Texas team as they are today. I think we all can kind of agree to that. We just got done talking about Texas. You beat Texas A&M by 10 with a backup quarterback, and then you lose by 37 in a shutout to Georgia. Ole Miss has one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Matt Corral's playing lights out. To me, he's probably Heisman front over 100 throws this year, not a single turnover-worthy throw. So Matt Corral's been balling. This game's at Oxford. I like Ole Miss to win this one too.
I'm not sure what the spread is on this either. I would imagine it's somewhere around 6, 5.
5, 6, 7, somewhere.
In favor of Ole Miss?
Yeah.
I would assume?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple games I've got circled moving on. The Big Ten, Michigan State at Rutgers. Rutgers got absolutely destroyed last week by Ohio State. But at the same time, I feel like Michigan State's kind of in the same position as Arkansas and Ole Miss. As far as I know, Michigan State's still undefeated, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean they've still got a lot to prove. Are they a true legit contender for the Big Ten championship, or are they just off to a hot start and kind of going to fade off towards the middle end of the year?
Me and you talked about earlier in the year having teams having trap games, and those coming at awkward times. Teams you wouldn't, at least you would least expect to be in that situation. And I think this is one of those games. I think this is a trap game. I do think that Michigan State wins this one, but I think we see a sloppy, close game, kind of maybe like an Oklahoma, West Virginia style close game, but enough to get it done. Because Rutgers is not a bad football team. They have been recently, but like in recent years, but the last 2 years for sure, I know they've been on the rise. So definitely not a team to take lightly.
Yeah, something that we always talk about that I don't hear a lot of people talk about on other shows. But something to take into consideration. This is 11 o'clock kickoff. Rutgers is used to play in weird times, a lot of Thursday night, Friday night games, Saturday afternoon, Saturday nights. That 11 o'clock kickoff is going to benefit Michigan State, even though it is on the road. You know who they also beat in an 11 o'clock kickoff game or a 1 o'clock kickoff game? Miami on the road. In my opinion, Miami should be, when they play to their expectations and their potential. Miami's a much better team than Rutgers is. And Michigan State had no problem handling it on the road to Miami. I'm leaning Michigan State for a lot of reasons in this one, but I did want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my Cinderella team this year. I got me a little T-shirt ordered. You'll be seeing it in the upcoming podcast. Whether they win or lose this weekend, I still think they're a great football team, and could find themselves in the Big Ten championship for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Swapping over to the Big 12 now, we got West Virginia at Baylor. Baylor ranked inside the top 25. A pretty good offensive team. Defensively, they've showed signs of greatness, but collectively, I think Baylor's a really good offensive team. But at the same time, West Virginia is a really good defensive team. West Virginia led the conference last year in total defense, I believe. I think this is going to be a good test for both these teams. West Virginia should have beat Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. They had a pretty good win. Who'd they beat? Virginia Tech like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yep.
I feel like this is a trap game for Baylor, but I do think that at the end of the day, they should be able to get this one out. Looking at schedules, Virginia's 2-3, losses to Maryland, who got off to a really hot start. Lost to Oklahoma, and then a 3-point loss to Texas Tech. When on the flip side of that, Baylor is currently 4-1. Big wins over Texas Southern and Kansas and Texas State, which aren't that great. But then you got a win over Iowa State by 2 and a loss to Oklahoma by 10. When Oklahoma State, I think they're the best team in the Big 12 right now.
Yeah, easily. In terms of consistency throughout the season, I still think that's going to be a conference that doesn't have an undefeated team. I think we're going to see a 1, possibly even a 2 loss, depending on if that's an out-of-conference loss. But back to topic, I'm with you. I think Baylor should, win this game, or West Virginia should win this game. But I think Baylor can, be an offensive juggernaut they have been the last, decade or so. I think, we could see some exposure on West Virginia's defense because they have been playing Big 12 standard, I guess you could say. They have been playing pretty good defense. But I do like West Virginia in this one. I think they force a lot of turnovers, escape, maybe a touchdown or so.
Yeah, Baylor is 22nd in the country in points per game, averaging 37, and West Virginia is 27th in the country and up 18 points. Baylor is actually 23rd in points per game defense. So two pretty good defenses. I think it goes towards Baylor in this, at least on paper. But I'll let you pick the next game because I got a couple games that we could touch on, but I'll let you pick the next one we go in depth.
I was looking at 2 right here, but I guess one that would spark more of a conversation. I actually got to touch base with one of our friends who joined us last year on a NFL podcast. or NFL episode with TPA, but Cade Powell, huge Nebraska Cornhuskers fan. I think this is a game they can win, and I mean that. I think they've played really good football after coming off that loss to Illinois. Could have beat Oklahoma, but didn't. Played really good that game. And, Michigan's a team that this is the time of year typically that Michigan starts to go to sleep. They've been wide awake, staying up for, 2 straight weeks, running off no sleep so far in the season, looking good. But eventually they're going to have to get some rest. And I think Nebraska is one of those teams that can do that.
Yeah, I think this is – I don't want to call it a trap game for Michigan. I want to call it a swing game for both teams. This is a season-defining game for both of these teams. One, because I don't think Scott Frost has a big win in his career at Nebraska. He had success at UCF. He beat Auburn, whatever. But at Nebraska, I don't think he has that quality win. This could be it for him. They've been on the come up for the past 2 or 3 weeks. They're keeping games close. They're not losing by a lot. They're playing good football. This could turn their season around, start piling on wins to finish out the year. We're at the halfway point. 6. Michigan, on the other hand, made a good point. This is that time of year where they start to go off. We're used to Michigan starting hot, but to me, this year feels a little different. They got more pep in their step on offense. I think that's been their struggle the last couple of years is their offense just couldn't keep up with Ohio State and Penn State. This year, I think they can. I'm taking Michigan to win it, but when I look at the scoreboard Saturday afternoon, I see Nebraska won by 10. I'm not going to be surprised. I think this is that game that we're either going to be, coming back on Sunday saying, all right, Michigan's legit. They're good this year. They're a legit contender up there with Iowa and Penn State and Ohio State. Or we're going to say, all right, this is just another year for Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's back on the hot seat. Nebraska's on the.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Nebraska too play real loosely. I think I hope that's how they're going to play. Either way, that's the only way they're going to win this game is to go in there and not expect anything less. Just play the game of football, and Michigan. Looking down the road, if they're going to lose the game to Ohio State, at the end of the year, this is a game they have to win to remain relevant. If they're going to lose that game to Ohio State by 3 or 4 or 5 points, I don't think that's a bad loss at all. But this is the game you have to win for sure.
Yeah, I'll ask you this. Senior year, what was one of the most fun games we had? In terms of just vibes were high. You know what I'm talking about?
To me, it would either have to be Fairview or Randolph.
I was thinking one Fairview. Like we kind of went into that game, knowing what we had to do. Went up 28-0. Then we got on cruise control, lost. But another game that comes to mind is Gunnersville. We went into that game not expecting to win that. Sure. Gunners was undefeated. We're on the sidelines, cutting shit, whatever, just having a good time. We're getting beat by 14 in the second quarter. But that's how this game has to be for Nebraska. The scariest team to play is a team that has nothing.
Yep.
So
and they've proved themselves already that they're a decent football team. They shouldn't have lost the game to Illinois. I think that kind of put a damper on the season in terms of double-digit win glory or whatever. But at the same time, they've played really good football teams since and played them really close. I think this could be a week that they finally get over that edge on a tough schedule that they have.
Yeah, I think so too. Moving on, though, we're going to go really quick to touch base on Georgia-Auburn. Do you think Auburn's 14-point underdog? Do you think they keep that one close? It's a 2:30 kickoff. If it was not game in Jordan-Hare, I'd probably be more interested in this, but I think Georgia should roll.
I think Georgia's going to be able to run the football really well. I think they can run the football on anybody in the country and probably about 6 NFL teams at this moment. But I think Auburn, do you think back to 2 years ago, I believe, Jarrett Stidham, Georgia, a team that went on to play for the national championship, or 3 years ago, whenever that was, got Auburn absolutely demolished 40-14, 41-14, something like that, and then turned right around and beat Auburn pretty handily in the SEC championship. I think Jordan-Hare is, a tough place to play for anybody, but I think, Georgia being an arch rival to Auburn, I think this is something we could see a game that kind of low scoring going into the fourth. But I think eventually Georgia's going to win this game by about 11, 13, somewhere in there. 2 scores for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. I think Auburn's going to play Georgia close in the first half. It's going to be Jordan Hare. It's Brian Harson's first year. Again, Auburn's in that situation. What do you have to lose? You're playing the number 2, number 1 team in the country. Like, there's only so much that is expected of you in this game. Bo Nix is playing for his job at this point. Like, so you know you're going to get a good out of him. They're coming off a very good win on the road in Death Valley against LSU in a game that place that they haven't won in 22 years, 23 years.
We were 2 years old.
Yeah, literally. So Auburn has, again, just like Nebraska, nothing to lose at this point. Not expected to win this game. You're 14-point underdog season. They're going to keep it close heading into the fourth quarter. At the end of the day, Georgia is different. Georgia is just different.
Both teams coming off, opponents that seemed to be great, and I think Auburn had to play a much tougher game last week to come out with a win. But I think this could be one of those games that you see that's real sloppy. Couple big plays here and a score, and then a couple plays of punts, and then a turnover, and then another big score. One of those top games that goes back and forth every few possessions and winds up in the end somebody pulls away.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. A little non-ranked opponent or a non-ranked matchup I'm got my eye on is Virginia at Louisville. Virginia showed some signs of being pretty good this year. Louisville started off not great, but they've kind of caught fire just like Nebraska has recently. I think other than the game against Wake Forest, if I'm not mistaken, Louisville has won 2 out of the last 3 out of the last 4, something like that. So Louisville looks pretty good. Virginia's impressed us. They had a solid win. They beat Illinois. 2 weeks ago. Good. We picked that one. Virginia's underdog in this one. Road dog, 2 points. Louisville at home. I think this is a very underappreciated matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I think too. Virginia kind of got pushed away with the loss against Wake Forest, but I don't think that's one of those. I look at that as maybe a loss like Ole Miss and Alabama. Alabama was supposed to win that game. Nobody expected them to come out that hot. Same scenario. I think Virginia's a good football team, and this is one of those games that has to show. I think Louisville too is one of those teams that has been struggling lately, and right now they're starting to find their groove. So this is going to be some good football to watch. Yeah,
Georgia. Virginia. They beat Illinois 42-14. 20-point loss to North Carolina. 20-point loss to Wake Forest, and then a 2-point win over Miami. Louisville, on the other hand, obviously you have that game against Ole Miss. You beat UCF by 7. So that was a weird Friday night game. You beat Florida State on the road by 8, and then you lose by 3 last week to Wake Forest on the road. You take the Louisville team you saw against Ole Miss is a completely different team than you saw last week or the week before that. I kind of like Louisville at home. Louisville's both of these teams, neither one of their schedules get any easier after this. Virginia has like 3 ranked opponents still. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. If you looking at who else is playing at 2:00 on Saturday, this might be the game my TV. So,
yeah, might flip over to Byu Boise State just to keep an eye on BYU.
Yeah, you want to talk about that one or?
I think I think that's a trap game too. This week, I think Boise State is good enough to win that game, but I think BYU will win the game ultimately. But look for that one to be a close scoring game.
Yeah, I think Boise gives them a little bit of a scare, but I think BYU kind of pulls it out too.
One game I know me and you will talk about it more later, but while we're here on the podcast, I want to touch on it before we get to the biggest game of the weekend. When it comes to moneyline betting this week, I'm going to take Virginia Tech over Notre Dame. Might be in a parlay. I think the line's even right now. I'm not. I think it was earlier. It's around 1. Yeah, it's like 1 or 2. So that's too close for me. I know Notre Dame is ranked 14th in the country, and Virginia Tech is currently unranked. But don't let that phase you. Virginia Tech's a good football team. Notre Dame's coming off a tough loss, a game I'm sure The whole campus thought they were going to win last week, and the one that they needed to remain in the playoff. I think their chances are gone after that loss last week. So that's why I think, we see them play super sloppy, and the Virginia Tech takes advantage of it. So Virginia Tech money line, you heard it here on Thursday night. For y'all, it would be Friday, and take the Virginia Tech money line.
Is Jack Cohen playing?
I
feel like I
I'm
saw
not sure.
somewhere that Drew Pine was starting. If he's starting, I'm all over Virginia Tech. If he's not, I could see Notre Dame winning, but I do like Virginia Tech at home, not game in Blacksburg.
Got to have a risky game every week. That's my risky game this week.
I like it. I think I got a couple risky games actually. I like Memphis plus 3.5 over Tulsa. We both picked Texas. That's an underdog outright. We said Virginia could get it done. I'm not picking outright underdog. And then I want to say UTSA is underdog on the road against Western Kentucky. That game's gonna be just as good, if not better, than Virginia. And Bailey Zappi, probably leads the country in passing yards. He had a receiver last week that had 17 receptions. I can't think of his name right now, but 17 receptions in the game. That's not targets, that's receptions. And then UTSA has one of the best offenses in Conference USA, one of the best ground games in Conference USA. That game is going to be very, very. Problem is, can't watch it because I don't know where the hell we're going to watch it at. It's not on ESPN, ABC, Fox Sports, ESPN Plus, nothing. So if you find it, send it to me. I need to find somehow to watch it.
Might even pay for it.
Yeah. Sport Surge or something.
I guess, let's see. We can go ahead and talk about. Well, actually, before we get to Alabama A&M, I want to talk to you about LSU Kentucky. I did not see that coming last week from Kentucky. After I rewatched the game, I realized that Kentucky is really not a bad football team at all. I know they haven't been in the past few years. I think they've even crept inside the top 12 at some point, top 10 maybe. But a huge win last week for the entire state of Kentucky. I know they're probably still hungover from that win. But this week's another one. You're still competing for the SEC East, which, I still think it's Georgia's to lose. But it's a huge game. I think Kentucky getting a win over Florida and then turning right around, and if they could beat LSU, you could be looking at a top 12 team next week.
Bro, you're looking at an 11-1 Kentucky team. You realize that? Their only loss would be to Georgia next week.
Yeah.
But think about that, bro. If I would have told you in preseason that Kentucky goes 11-1, what would you have said?
I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have thought that Florida would have came in here with more than 3 losses, but that's looking like what their season is going to finish with as well. So,
I like it. Kentucky's not a bad football team. They did not deserve to win that game last week. Florida beat the hell out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
In every facet of the game. Kentucky won it. I don't know how the hell that happened, but it is what it is. And I was watching the late kick Monday. I think it was a Sunday night late kick. Josh was talking. It was like Florida fans are like, is it time to move on from Dan Mullen? He made a good point. He was like, if you're having to ask if it's time to move on, it's not time to move on. LSU with Ed Orgeron, we just talked to him. We're talking about LSU. We're kind of more Kentucky, but LSU, Ed Orgeron, very well. I don't see him coming back next year. They have to win 5 out of their next 6 at least, with that loss being to Alabama, to even stay relevant at this point, I think.
I think if you see a double-digit loss this week, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going by Tuesday morning.
Yeah, same could be said for Urban Meyer, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Former Florida head coach. But no, I like Kentucky to win this one at home, 7:30. Will Levis, I'm a big fan of him. Him and Kenny Pickett, bro. Kenny Pickett is unreal. Put your money on Pittsburgh right now just because of Kenny Pickett. Which I texted you, what was it, 3 weeks ago? And I was like, Kenny fucking Pickett,
several
bro.
weeks.
That guy is different. But anything else on Kentucky, LSU?
That's it.
I think that's got about all my games highlighted. I mean, there's some games we're going to talk about after discussing betting wise. But other than that, I think all these other games are kind of one-sided. Besides the big one that game day should be at, but they're not for what. Penn State versus Iowa. My opinion.
Where is game day?
Texas, Oklahoma.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It should be here, but that's understandable, I guess. I guess given that they've already, Penn State's already been in a game day. I don't know about Iowa. Don't think so.
Iowa State.
Yeah, so maybe that's
makes sense. But nonetheless, this right here, in my opinion, is the Big Ten championship. I don't think it can work like that. I think this is a divisional matchup. Pretty sure it is, actually. But this right here, whoever wins this should win out, should go to the conference championship. And your opponent on the other side is Wisconsin, Michigan State. Should be no contest. I always got, in my opinion, I'm gonna look this up. I'll let you give your opinion. I'm gonna look up some stats.
I think this is going to be a defensive, slaughter fest. I think this is going to be a game that we see a lot of hits, a lot of short yardage gains, a lot of sacks, a lot of, pass breakups, some, stuff to that nature. Iowa's defense in terms of points allowed, top 5 team, yards against, points against and yards against both top 5 teams. Number 2 overall defense in the entire country. But on the other hand, we talked about how good of a team Indiana has been. Penn State last week went in there and pitched a shutout 24-0 with ease. Made it look easy. Ran the ball. Was really no sense in passing out all too much. Just established the run game early. And that's something I don't think we're going to see this week. I think Iowa's, going to make you spread it out. You're going to have to make plays. And but ultimately, I think I don't know.
Say it.
I'm rolling with Penn State this week.
I am too. I got $10 on Penn State already. And I'm going to tell you why. Iowa has the second-ranked defense in the country in points allowed. I don't know who's first. It's probably some team that ain't played them.
Yep.
But, and I'm going to tell you why Iowa's going to lose this week. Because of what you said. What they're going to force Penn State to do is spread them out, not be one phase, like not only run the ball or not only throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Someone that's going to take care of the football. John Clifford is very, he's a veteran. Jahan Dotson, one of the best receivers in college football. Penn State has the tools on offense to beat Iowa. Iowa State had the tools on offense to beat Iowa, but what haunted them? They turned the ball over like 3 or 4 times. They turned it over once inside their own 10. I think Iowa got it inside the 5. I want to say they turned it over in their own territory another time, so that's 50% right there.
And I count short punts as turnovers too when I'm talking about it. They had one punt that was about 8 yards, I think.
Yeah, if you can't flip field position, it's just as good as a turn. Indiana had 2 pick sixes. Kent State, Colorado State, we're just kind of going to throw those out. Maryland, 7 turnovers last week against Iowa. You're not beating 8th grade 5 with 7 turnovers. I don't care who you are. So when I look at Iowa, in my opinion, you have not seen Iowa's offense just look elite. They put up 51 points last week. They had 7 extra possessions.
Yeah.
Penn State, it's going to come down to it's a good defense versus a good defense. It's a good offense versus a mediocre offense. So I'm rolling with the good offense, and I'm going with Penn State on.
Yeah, absolutely. Defense wins championships, but offense gets you to the championship. And I think, that's the motto. Like you said, the team that wins this game is probably going to win out, play in the Big Ten championship, should win with ease, and then lose to Alabama or Georgia. So, to me, Penn State, I think they're the team this week.
Another reason why I like Penn State?
What's up?
Because you remember that stat I gave you at the end of this video?
Vaguely.
Something about an undefeated record.
Oh, yeah, 7-0.
7-0. You know who's underdog in this game?
Penn State.
Penn State. Ride with them.
That's right. All right.
Oh, all right. Anything else you want to touch on before we give our top 10 and then this video?
I believe, trying to make sure I think we covered everything in terms of big games. The Big Ten's definitely got the best slate this week. I hope to catch every Big Ten game we just talked about. I know I'll spend late Saturday night rewatching the Big Ten games I don't get to see.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Looking forward to it. I think Alabama wins with ease.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see some struggling though. A lot of guys injured, a lot of guys out. McClellan out.
Yep.
I've been reading where they're trying to rotate Jalen Milroe as an emergency H-back.
Yeah.
He's been working at H-back, I believe. And but I think that's a game they're going to win. It's a night game, not typically something we see between Alabama and A&M, especially in College Station, but keep an eye on that one.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And our top 10 this week's actually kind of easy because we texted about it at
12 a.m. Saturday
night. You texted me at 12 a.m. I texted back at 5:30. So I'll just read it off and we kind of touch on it a little bit. At number 10, we got Coastal Carolina, who just shit out of Arkansas State. Number 9, I believe it was Michigan State.
Yep.
Oregon at number 8. Oregon got screwed. We didn't talk about them this week. Oregon got royally screwed last week. Did you get to watch it?
I got to see. I think we kind of swapped. We were swapping it back and forth between two games. I don't remember which one, but I got to see the last 2 possessions and then the overtime.
I think Alabama was on during that time. I think I remember flipping over after. But yeah, I mean, bro, that was first off they were playing without Joe Moorhead, who's one of the best college football minds or the offensive minds in college football. So that hurt them. So I'm not taking anything away from Oregon. Oregon's still going to win the Pac-12. They're just not going to make the playoff. Michigan at number 7. I like that. BYU at 6. BYU, I feel like you could possibly slide them down to 8, move Michigan and Oregon up. I feel like those 3 teams are kind of interchangeable. If Oregon was still undefeated, I think Oregon would be at 6 instead of BYU. Other than that, they're all pretty much equal. Number 5, Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati stays at 5 for the rest. I think the highest we see them go is 4. And that's just where they're going.
That's it. They've played. They won their 2 big games.
That's what
now they need 15 to 20 point wins and at least 5 of the next or the last few games. So.
I'll tell you what I'm doing for the rest of the year. If I see Cincinnati as around a 20-point favorite against anybody for the rest of the year, I'm taking it. Anything over 20, I may let it go, but if it's 20 or lower, I'm taking it because Cincinnati has to resume the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's all they have to do. They can't win a game by 3 or 4. They have to win every game by double digits. So I'm tailing Cincinnati anything 20 or less. Iowa, number 4. Penn State, number 3. I think this is pretty interesting. Cincinnati, obviously, number 5. And I said I think they're going to stay there. I think the highest they get is number 4. I would not be surprised. I think we're a month from the first college football rankings coming out. If the top 4 we have right now, Bama, Georgia, Penn State, Iowa, no matter who wins this weekend, I think that's the top 4 of college football right now, period. I think you could throw Cincinnati in there, but we'll say those top 5. That's the 5 top teams in college football right now, and I don't think you can make a case for anybody in the top 5 other than that. After this week, the only way that changes is if one team beats the other team by double digits.
Yeah, and 2, they have Oklahoma ranked so high right now. Originally, I think if Michigan has a statement win this week, by statement win I mean 17 to 24 plus points. I think that could be a team argued for the top 5, top 6 for sure. But I'm with you. Right now, there's about 4, 5 teams floating on the playoff bubble for me, and that's it.
Yep.
I don't have any more.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's going to hurt, again, in my opinion, my college football playoff teams right now are those 5. And how it's going to come down to is, like I mentioned earlier, Penn State and Iowa, only one of you can make the Big Ten.
Yep.
So it's going to come down to the loser.
And Michigan.
Yeah. The loser, well, I'm taking Penn State and Iowa over Michigan this week currently.
Yeah.
October 7th, I'm taking Penn State and Iowa over. So in realm of the playoff, it's going to come down to Cincinnati's resume versus win-loss Big Ten third place resume. That's what I think it comes to December.
Yeah, I think too we're going to see a situation where Alabama and Georgia are in the SEC championship, and somebody's going to lose, and the rankings are not going to change. They're going to stay 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think this is the same situation. Same situation.
I know. I think me and you both have Penn State at 3, though. Didn't we?
Yeah. And again, if Iowa wins this one, if they win it by, we'll say less than 10, congrats. You beat a top 5 team by 6 points at home. Flip it. Put Penn State at home if they win by 6. Again, I still think they stay at 3 as a team by double digits.
Yep.
But I think that'll do. I think that'll wrap up college football week 6. Anything you want to add?
Heisman favorites right now: Bryce Young, Matt Corral, and maybe Robinson from Texas. He's looked really good. And the running back, what's his name? Michigan State. Is it Walker? No. I don't know. Either way, really right now there's just 2 clear-cut favorites, and I don't really know if there's anything we'll touch more on playoff picture next week. I think this week right here will help determine our picks, early projections for playoff.
I agree with you. I think this is I'll learn a lot on Saturday. Is Kenneth Walker the third? So yeah, you're right.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot this week. Not only about the Big Ten, I think the ACC too. Wake Forest 6-point favorite on the against Syracuse. We talked about Virginia. I think there's another game. North Carolina plays Florida State. North Carolina still got some stuff. Virginia Tech versus Notre Dame, and then I guess that's it for this week. But nonetheless, it's a good week to learn a lot about. It's a good week for Big Ten matchups and to learn a lot about the ACC. So we'll have a lot of good discussion come Sunday cap week 6. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you're interested in NFL, we got another video in just a few hours for you guys to check out. If you're watching in the afternoon, it's already live. Then we got fantasy football tomorrow. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all social media, and we'll see you guys